Hello, everybody. This week's readings, as we know, focused on Stella Adler and her approach to creative imagination. One of the biggest ideas I took away from Adler was her emphasis on imagination. I'm going to pull some quotes and kind of explain it a little bit. One of my first quote that stood out to me was on page, in here on page 120. It reads, "Imagination, she tells us, is the greatest quality an actor can have. With it, anything is possible. Without it, nothing is. Every word, every action must originate in the actor's imagination." I really like this quote because it reminds me that my students don't have to rely on their own life experiences to create believable characters. As a high school director, I work with teenagers who obviously haven't experienced everything their characters have. So Adler's emphasis on imagination reminds me that they don't need to. They can take the time to understand the character's world and use their imagination. They can still create honest and believable performances. My next takeaway, coming from here on page 298, it reads, and I'm going to paraphrase it just a little bit, but it says, the actor's instrument is the self. Jumping down a little bit, the self that includes the world. To me, that idea connects real well with this whole philosophy of imagination. Actors absolutely bring their own experiences into a role, but they also have to observe the world around them and use their imagination to create someone beyond themselves. So the imagination to relate to that character and then to connect it to some of the real world stuff to create believable and honest characters. And finally, my third takeaway, the third quote that stood out to me is on page 126 in here. And it reads, "Following out the logic of a character's element, a circumstance, an action, a justification, this is the actor's job. It takes a clear mind and a fertile imagination." I think that just kind of wraps it all up. This quote really summed up Adler's philosophy for me. Acting isn't just about memorizing lines and trying to feel the right emotion. It's about understanding why a character does what they do and making choices that make sense within the whole play. As a high school theater director, this is something I work on with my students all the time. I think Adler's philosophy gives actors a great process to follow, and it's one that I can definitely see myself continuing to use in the classroom. And lastly, one more little one at the end in here on page 301, kind of this very humbling quote that I really loved. Appreciating the art in yourself, not yourself in the art. With that, thanks for listening.